Any movie that comes out with it that pisses off everybody at the film festivals, I'm like, I want to see that movie. If it pisses off film festival critics, I'm like, I got to see that movie. I went and saw that movie Mother with J-Law, Javier Bardem, Michelle Pfeiffer, Ed Harris. You guys see that? I enjoyed it. And everybody was telling me, like, and all these film festival critics were saying, like, oh, it's so pretentious and up its own ass. Ironically, because they're the one who really pretentious, you know. But I didn't think Mother was that pretentious at all. I was like, this is funny. It's like a really black comedy, you know. But I think it was mismarketed. Like, it was, the trailer for that movie made it seem like a horror movie, you know. But you watch it and it's funny as fuck. I mean, the first half was kind of dull. The problem with Mother is that it didn't work on a surface level for me. It works, however, it works perfectly on an allegorical level. Like, that's all I could see. I mean, I don't know if I watched that movie with a certain bias, because beforehand I had looked at all this press that the movie was getting, and all these people were saying, yeah, it's what it is. It's an allegory for Mother Earth and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. So then I go to see the movie, and that's all I can see. I can't even take these characters seriously as real people. All I can see is the allegory. I'm like, oh, okay. She's not a real person. He's not a real person. None of these people are real characters that I should take seriously. But what they represent, like on an allegorical level, I understand. She's that, he's this, he's that thing, and then they're gonna do this thing, and that's gonna happen, and then this thing, and then, like, it made sense purely on that level. Like, I couldn't take it seriously on surface level, because it's like J-Law and Javier Bardem living alone in a house in the middle of nowhere in, like, the forest, like a secluded area of the forest, and then like, J-Law is supposed to be Mother Nature, and Javier Bardem is supposed to be God, right? Like, there's a number of ways to interpret it, but that's the predominant way I think interpreting it, is that Javier Bardem is God, and Jennifer Lawrence is Mother Earth, who's trying to build this pristine house for her family, right? Which, the house is Earth. It's a metaphor, right? It's Earth. And so it ends. Yeah, carbon emissions. Yeah, basically. I mean, you could boil the movie Mother down to basically propaganda, or not propaganda necessarily, but just like anti-global warming stuff, you know? Like a movie against global warming. You could boil it down to that level if you wanted to, but you could also interpret it in a number of other ways. But whatever way you boil it down to, it's all allegorical, and that's the only way I could seriously, I could take that movie seriously, you know? Because, like, if you try to enjoy that movie purely on a surface level, you're just like, none of this makes sense. She wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do this. Like, I'm not believing any of these actions that these characters are taking. But if you look at it on a level of an allegory, where she's Mother Nature, he's God, and then Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer and their kids are like man, you know, humans who populate the earth, in this case the house, right? Like, Michelle Pfeiffer, Ed Harris shows up with a cough, first of all, you know, and he's saying, like, Javier Bardem's, like, or J-Law is just like, he's a stranger, we can't let him in, and Javier Bardem's just like, no, we got to welcome him in. Our house is everybody's house, you know? So they bring Ed Harris in, and then Michelle Pfeiffer comes to the house looking for Ed Harris because she's his wife. And then we get to know her a little bit, and then the kids come along, like the kids of that couple. And it's just got this, like, clown car kind of comedy where people just keep coming to the house. You're just like, oh, this is so unrealistic. But you can see why the director's doing it, because there's an allegorical purpose to it. So the kids come to the house, and they're squabbling over some, like, a will. Like, they're angry because they were left out of a will or something. Or one of the kids was, the other kid wasn't. And the kids start fighting, and then one kills the other. And then you're like, oh, okay, the only reason for all of this family drama was to have a murder happen in the house, which is metaphorical for man populating the earth and man killing man, you know, and the horrors of that, you know, and J-Law has to like put up with it, right? And you know, like Javier Bardem's character's like an author, and he's like trying to like he's working on this new thing that's going to be magnificent, and so obviously like, oh, that's the word of God, right? That's the Bible, right? So he's like, as soon as he finishes his project, he gives it to J-Law to read, and she's like, you never see, the camera never goes into what he's written or what he's created exactly, but he hands it to Jennifer Lawrence to read, and then she's like, it's perfect, it's beautiful, you know, just like, because the metaphor is obviously the work of God is beautiful and perfect, you know. And so, and then as I expected, I laughed when this happened. There's a scene where like Javier Bardem is on the phone with all these producers, and you know, they're like, he's like, they love it. They're coming over here to like get my autograph and shit. And then he does a book signing in his fucking his living room. And then like all these people start showing up. This is like near the second act, the end of the second act or the third act of the movie, where like Javier Bardem's career's taken off, and then all these people come into the house, and then there's so many people in the fucking house that like all this absurd shit starts happening. Like there's like dance music and like techno and flashing lights from one room, and then there's like a bunch of people like breaking shit in another room. There's a part where like Jennifer Lawrence gets in a fight with a woman who's trying to snatch a vase off a shelf, and like they're tugging the vase, and the woman is like, I need something to remember him with. And like she's talking about Javier Bardem, right? Because she's like he is her favorite author. She's trying to snatch this vase because she needs something to remember him with, and they end up breaking the vase. And then the woman goes, now I need to steal something else. And then she runs away, and then Jennifer Lawrence tries to run, and she turns to try and get the telephone, and then someone like sidles in towards the telephone. She's like, "Excuse me, I'm using this," and like dials a number. And so it's J-Law's fucking phone, right? But this guest is just like, well, you're like helping herself to the use of the phone. So, excuse me, starts dialing a number, and then another guy comes along, and he snatches the phone off the fucking wall and runs away with it. Like, it's hilarious. And like just the amount of times that Jennifer Lawrence is going around the house like stopping people from trying to do what they're doing, like, hey, stop that, don't do that, like, treat the house with respect, what are you doing, hey, cut that out. It's hilarious. And eventually it gets farcical and deliberately, right? So like at some point, like there's like literal riots happening in the house, right? And there's like all these cops running around with like, you know, shields and like batons, and people are throwing Molotov cocktails, and then in another room people are getting executed like ISIS style, and the person cast as the executioner in that scene is Kristen Wiig. Like, if you didn't have a clue beforehand that this was a fucking comedy movie, there's your hint, you know. And I was laughing my ass off in the theater. I was like, this is so funny. And I knew exactly what it was trying to do. Like, you see all this absurd shit happening in the house, and you're meant to go, oh, that's absurd what's happening here. This doesn't make sense. And then you're meant to go, oh, how, because of the allegory, J-Law is Mother Nature, and we're supposed to go, oh, the way we're treating the earth is ridiculous as well. Like that. I think that's essentially what the movie's trying to do. That's the movie's goal. Wow, that's not how the movie was marketed. I know, it's marketed as a horror/thriller. But it's actually a black comedy. It's like a pitch black comedy. It gets really gnarly at the end. But it's absolutely supposed to be like a comedy to some degree.